My friends, life is full of choices. Every single day we decide what matters to us. We make time for the things we love, and we hold on to the people we value. But I want to ask you today, have you ever felt like you were chasing someone who didn't truly want you in their life? Have you ever wondered why you keep knocking on doors that refuse to open? Let me tell you something. If someone truly wants you in their life, they will make room for you. You won't have to fight for a place at their table. You won't have to beg for their attention. Love, real love, does not require you to prove your worth over and over again. The power of free will, God Himself, does not force us to love Him. He calls us, He invites us, but He does not beg. And if God in all His power and glory does not force anyone to choose Him, why should you force someone to choose you? Let go of the people who do not make space for you. Let go of the ones who only call when they need something. Let go of the ones who treat you as an option when you have made them a priority. No risk, no story. Many of us hold on because we fear the unknown. We fear the loss, the loneliness, the emptiness. But let me tell you something. Every great story begins with a moment of risk. Every testimony is born in the fire of surrender. And sometimes the greatest act of faith is walking away from what is hurting you. Some of you are holding on to people God is trying to remove from your life. You keep knocking on doors He has closed. You keep planting seeds in soil that refuses to grow. But let me ask you, do you trust God's plan for you? Do you believe He has better things in store? A new chapter. God never removes something without replacing it with something greater. He never allows a door to close unless He has something far better waiting for you. But you will never see the new if you are still clinging to the old. It's time to stop chasing those who do not chase you. It's time to stop watering relationships that have already withered. It's time to step into the life God has prepared for you with the people He has ordained for your journey. So I say to you today, walk boldly in faith. Let go of what is not meant for you, and trust that what is truly yours will never require you to beg, to prove, or to chase. Because no risk, no story. But with faith, every risk leads to a testimony. People make time for what they value. It is one of the simplest truths of life, yet one that so many struggle to accept. We live in a world where people chase relationships, friendships, and even opportunities that seem just out of reach, hoping that if they try a little harder, give a little more, or prove themselves just enough, they will finally be seen, heard, and valued. But the truth is, you will never have to force yourself into the life of someone who truly values you. They will make room. They will find time. They will not offer excuses, delays, or indifference. Because when someone genuinely values you, their actions will show it without you having to beg for their attention. People prioritize what is important to them. No matter how busy someone is, they always make time for what they care about. Think about your own life. When something matters to you, whether it's a job, a hobby, or a person, you find a way to invest in it. You make space for it in your schedule. You shift things around if necessary, and you go out of your way to ensure that it does not slip through the cracks. It's not about having time. It's about making time, and that is the standard you should hold others to as well. If someone tells you they are too busy to call, too distracted to check in, or too overwhelmed to show up, what they are really saying is that you are not enough of a priority for them to make the effort. That might be a hard truth to accept, but it is a freeing one. Because the moment you stop trying to convince people to care, you free yourself to embrace the ones who already do. Love, friendship, and respect should never have to be demanded. They should be given freely. And when someone values you, they won't leave you wondering where you stand. They won't make you feel like you are just another obligation on a long list of things to do. They won't communicate in half-hearted gestures or words that do not align with their actions. Have you ever noticed how some people always seem to be too busy for you, yet they somehow manage to find time for others? They will say they have no time to talk, yet you see them engaged in long conversations with someone else. They claim they are overwhelmed, yet they are able to make plans with others without hesitation. This is not a matter of circumstance, it is a matter of priority. When people want to see you, they will make it happen. When they want to talk to you, they will reach out. When they value you, they will show up, not because they have to, but because they want to. Sometimes we try to justify the inaction of others because we do not want to accept the reality that we are not a priority to them. We tell ourselves they are just going through a hard time, that they have too much on their plate, that they will change when things settle down. But the truth is, people do not neglect what they truly value. They do not forget about what is important to them. When someone wants you in their life, they will not make you feel like an outsider. They will not offer you empty words without action. They will not expect you to be the only one reaching out, checking in, or making an effort. This is a lesson that many learn the hard way through years of chasing after people who do not reciprocate the effort, through the heartbreak of realizing that no matter how much they give, it will never be enough to make someone care. But the good news is, the moment you recognize this truth, you can stop wasting time on relationships that drain you and start investing in the ones that actually bring you peace, joy, and fulfillment. The right people will never make you feel like you have to earn their love or attention. They will never make you question your worth. They will never leave you second-guessing where you stand. God himself demonstrates this principle. He never forces himself into anyone's life. He calls, he invites, he knocks, but he never forces. He makes himself available to those who seek him, and he gives his love freely to those who choose to receive it. If God in all his greatness does not chase after those who reject him, why should we? Why should we fight to keep a place in the life of someone who has made it clear through their actions that they do not truly want us there? You deserve to be in the company of those who make time for you. You deserve friendships that do not feel one-sided. You deserve love that does not require you to beg. Do not let anyone convince you that you are asking for too much simply because you desire to be valued. The right people will always show up. The right people will always make space. The right people will never make you feel like you're an inconvenience. So stop making excuses for those who don't see your worth and start focusing on those who do. Because at the end of the day, people make time for what they value. And if someone truly values you, they will show it. God does not force love. He calls, he invites, he knocks. But he never demands that anyone choose him. Love, in its purest form, is always a choice. It cannot be manipulated, coerced, or forced. It must be given freely, or it is not love at all. This is a truth that applies not only to our relationship with God, but to every relationship in our lives. If God himself, in all his power and authority, allows people the freedom to accept or reject him, why should we feel the need to force anyone to love us, respect us, or make room for us in their lives? One of the greatest sources of pain in life comes from trying to make people care when they simply don't. We invest time, energy, and emotion into relationships, hoping that if we give enough, serve enough, or prove ourselves enough, they will finally see our worth. But love does not work that way. The very nature of love is that it must be given willingly. When we try to force someone to care, all we do is set ourselves up for heartbreak. No amount of effort can change a heart that does not choose to love freely. Think about Jesus and the rich young ruler. The young man approached Jesus, asking what he needed to do to inherit eternal life. Jesus told him to sell everything he had, give to the poor, and follow him. But the young man walked away, unwilling to make that sacrifice. And what did Jesus do? Did he chase after him? Did he beg him to reconsider? No, he let him go. Not because he did not love him, but because love must be chosen. Jesus never forced anyone to follow him. He extended an invitation, but he did not manipulate or pressure anyone to stay. Yet, how often do we do the opposite? How often do we cling to relationships that are one-sided? How often do we try to convince people to see our value? We beg, we plead, we exhaust ourselves trying to make someone choose us, when the reality is, if they truly wanted to be in our lives, we wouldn't have to force them. Just as God gives us free will in our relationship with him, We must allow others the freedom to decide whether they want to be part of our journey. This applies to friendships, romantic relationships, and even family connections. Love is a two-way street. It cannot be sustained by one person doing all the work. If you're the only one initiating conversations, making plans, or holding the relationship together, then you are not in a healthy mutual relationship. You are in a situation where you are trying to force something that should be naturally reciprocated. Love is not about convincing someone to care. It is about choosing each other again and again, freely and willingly. One of the most liberating things you will ever do is accept that you do not have to convince the right people to love you. You do not have to chase them, persuade them, or fight for a place in their life. The right people will choose you without hesitation. They will value your presence, honor your time, and appreciate you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. When you let go of the need to force relationships, you free yourself to receive the love that is meant for you. God's love is the perfect example of this. He offers his love freely to all, but he does not force anyone to accept it. He is always willing, always faithful, but he does not chase after those who reject him. He lets them go because love cannot be forced. In the same way, we must stop trying to make people stay who do not truly want to be in our lives. We must stop holding on to relationships that are not rooted in mutual respect and genuine care. Sometimes letting go is an act of faith. It means trusting that if someone is meant to be in your life, they will be. It means believing that God will bring the right people at the right time. It means understanding that you are worthy of love that does not have to be earned through constant effort. When you finally accept that love must be a choice, not a demand, you will stop wasting your energy on those who do not see your worth and start embracing the ones who do. Let go of relationships that drain you. Life is too short, and your energy is too precious to be spent on people who do not pour into you the way you pour into them. Many people go through life holding on to relationships that are no longer serving them, hoping that if they just give a little more, things will change. They convince themselves that if they can be more patient, more understanding, or more forgiving, the other person will eventually reciprocate the love and effort they have been giving all along. But the truth is, some relationships are meant to be released, not repaired. Some connections are only meant for a season. And when that season is over, clinging to them will only cause you more pain. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that their worth is tied to how much they can endure in a relationship. They think that if they can just prove their loyalty, their resilience, or their ability to withstand mistreatment, they will finally be recognized and appreciated. But love is not something that should drain you. Love, when it is real, does not leave you feeling exhausted, anxious, or uncertain. It does not make you question your value or force you to accept less than you deserve. When a relationship becomes a constant source of stress, when it takes more from you than it gives, it is time to reevaluate why you are holding on. There are people who only call when they need something. They reach out when they are lonely, when they need encouragement, when they are in trouble, but when you need them, they are nowhere to be found. These people do not value you for what you can do for them. And yet, so many continue to pour into these relationships, hoping that one day things will change. But relationships built on one-sided effort are not sustainable. They will leave you depleted, frustrated, and emotionally drained. If you are always the one reaching out, always the one making sacrifices, always the one bending over backward to keep the relationship alive, then you are not in a relationship at all. You are in an obligation. God did not create you to live in constant exhaustion. He did not design relationships to be burdensome. Healthy relationships should uplift you, strengthen you, and bring you closer to the person He has called you to be. They should not leave you feeling used, unappreciated, or taken for granted. There is a difference between enduring hardships together and being the only one holding the relationship together. Love requires effort, but should never feel like a never-ending struggle to be seen, heard, or valued. Some people are only meant to be in your life for a season. They came to teach you something, to help you grow, or to be part of a chapter in your story, but they were never meant to stay. And yet, out of fear of being alone, many people cling to relationships long after they have served their purpose. They ignore the signs, the red flags, the feeling deep inside that tells them it is time to walk away. They hold on because they have invested so much time and they do not want to feel like they wasted it. But the real waste is staying in a place where you are not appreciated, where you are not growing, and where you are constantly drained. Letting go is not an act of weakness, it is an act of strength. It takes courage to walk away from something familiar, even when you know it is no longer good for you. It takes faith to believe that when you release what is not meant for you, God will bring what is. It takes wisdom to understand that your peace is more valuable than any relationship that leaves you feeling empty. You cannot keep giving to people who never pour back into you. You cannot continue to sacrifice your well-being for the sake of keeping someone in your life. Love should not leave you drained. The right relationships will nourish you, support you, and bring you peace. Stop watering dead plants. Stop investing in relationships that leave you feeling empty. Trust that God has better for you. When you finally let go of what's draining you, you make room for the relationships that will truly bless your life. Faith requires risk. Every great story in life, every testimony of triumph begins with a step into the unknown. No one has ever accomplished something truly meaningful without first facing uncertainty. Yet so many people stay in situations that no longer serve them because they are afraid of what might happen if they let go. They remain in unfulfilling relationships, stagnant environments, and unhealthy cycles, not because they believe it is what's best for them, but because stepping away feels too uncertain. But faith is not about clinging to comfort. It is about trusting that even when you cannot see the next step, God is guiding your path. Fear keeps people trapped. It whispers lies that convince them they are safer where they are, even if where they are is destroying them. It tells them that if they take a risk, they will lose everything. It makes them believe that the pain they know is better than the possibility of something worse. But that is not faith. Faith does not operate within the realm of guarantees. Faith does not wait until all the details are in place before moving forward. Faith steps out even when nothing makes sense. It walks into the unknown, believing that God will provide exactly what is needed at exactly the right time. Many people pray for change, but resist the steps required to bring that change. They ask God for better relationships, for new opportunities, for peace, but when He begins to shift things, they cling to what is familiar. They beg Him to open doors, yet when He starts closing the wrong ones, they fight to keep them open. But obedience requires trust, and trust means letting go when God says it is time. Some of the greatest blessings in life come not from what we gain, but from what we are willing to release. If Abraham had refused to leave his homeland, he would have never stepped into God's promise. If Peter had stayed in the boat, he would have never walked on water. If Ruth had remained in Moab, she would have never stepped into her destiny. Every great act of faith requires risk. Holding on to the wrong things does not just delay your blessings. It drains your spirit. There is a weight that comes with staying in places you are no longer meant to be. You can feel it in your heart, in your mind, in your body. It manifests as restlessness, exhaustion, and a deep knowing that something is missing. Yet so many ignore these signs, convincing themselves that if they wait long enough, things will get better. But sometimes things do not get better because they were never meant to. God does not call you to stay in places that require you to shrink yourself just to fit. He does not call you to relationships that make you question your worth. He does not call you to live in fear of what will happen if you trust Him fully. The moment you step out in faith, everything changes. The moment you stop clinging to what is safe and start trusting that God's plans are greater than your fears, you open yourself up to the life you were meant to live. But as long as you keep holding on to things that no longer serve you, you will never make room for the things that do. Faith means believing that even if the transition is painful, the destination is worth it. It means trusting that even if you have to walk away from something familiar, God will not leave you empty-handed. It means understanding that the very thing you are afraid of letting go of might be the thing keeping you from the blessing you have been praying for. No risk, no story. The most powerful testimonies do not come from people who played it safe. They come from those who were willing to take a chance, to step out, to trust even when it did not make sense. And that is what God is calling you to do. He is calling you to release what is not meant for you, to stop clinging to what is draining you, to take the step even when you do not know where it will lead, because the life He has for you is greater than anything you are afraid to lose. But you will never experience it until you take the risk and walk in faith. Rejection is often God's protection. It does not feel like it at the moment, but when someone walks away, when a door closes, or when something does not work out the way you hoped, there is a greater plan at work. People spend so much time trying to hold on to relationships, opportunities, and circumstances that were never meant to last. They see rejection as a failure, as a sign that they were not good enough, not worthy enough, or not important enough. But rejection is not always about what is lost. Sometimes it is about what is being preserved. When something does not go the way you planned, it is often because God is redirecting you to something better. People who leave your life are not always meant to stay. There are times when God removes individuals because their presence is no longer aligned with your purpose. It is painful when someone chooses to walk away, but not everyone is meant to go where you are going. Some relationships serve a purpose for a season, and when that season ends, holding on only delays what God has for you next. When someone does not see your value, when they take you for granted, or when they choose to distance themselves, it is easy to feel abandoned. But instead of seeing it as a loss, recognize that God may be removing them for your own good. The wrong people cannot stay in your life when God is preparing you for something greater. Too often, people chase after those who have already shown they do not want to stay. They beg, plead, and try to convince them to return, believing that if they just do more, the person will change their mind. But love is not something that should have to be forced. If someone truly values you, they will make the effort to be in your life. They will not have to be persuaded or convinced. And when someone chooses to leave, your response should not be to chase them. It should be to trust that if they were meant to stay, they would have. God does not allow people to walk away from your life without a reason. The same applies to missed opportunities. When a job does not work out, when a dream seems to fall apart, or when a plan you were counting on suddenly fails, it is easy to question why. It is easy to wonder if you did something wrong, if you made a mistake, or if you were simply not good enough. But rejection is not always about punishment. Sometimes it is about protection. God sees what you cannot. He knows what lies ahead. And sometimes He closes doors because He knows that what is behind them will not bring you the fulfillment, peace, or joy you were hoping for. What you see as a disappointment may actually be divine intervention. Consider how many times in life you have wanted something desperately, only to realize later that it would not have been good for you. How many times have you looked back and thanked God for not giving you what you once prayed for? In the moment, it is difficult to understand why things do not work out. Hindsight always reveals that God was working behind the scenes, removing things that were not meant to be part of your story. The relationship that ended, the friendship that faded, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers, it all happened for a reason. And when you trust that God is guiding your steps, you no longer see rejection as something to mourn. You see it as a sign that something better is coming. Rejection often redirects you toward your true purpose. When one thing falls apart, it makes room for something greater. But if you are too focused on what you lost, you will miss what God is bringing into your life. You cannot receive new blessings while still holding on to old disappointments. You cannot step into your future while still clinging to the past. Let go of what did not work out, not because it was not good, but because God has something better. Trust that if He removed it, it was not meant to be yours. Trust that if He closed the door, it was for your protection. And trust that every no is making way for the right yes. What God has for you will never require you to beg, to force, or to convince. It will come with peace, and it will be exactly what you need at exactly the right time. The right people will stay. You never have to beg for the presence of those who are meant to be in your life. When someone truly values you, they will show up not just in words, but in actions. They will not leave you guessing where you stand. They will not treat you as an afterthought, a convenience, or an option they choose only when it benefits them. The right people will not make you question your worth because they will see it clearly. They will not disappear when times get hard, and they will not let circumstances dictate their loyalty. The right people will stay because they choose to, because they want to, and because their connection to you is not based on conditions but on something real. Too often, people waste their energy trying to convince others to care. They chase after those who are indifferent, hoping that if they love harder, give more, or prove their worth, they will finally be chosen. But love is not something that should have to be earned through endless effort. Real love, real friendship, and real loyalty are given freely. They are not the result of constant persuasion, negotiation. If someone wants to be in your life, they will make it clear. They will not require you to shrink yourself, to silence your needs, or to accept less than you deserve just to keep them close. People often settle for relationships that drain them because they fear being alone. They hold on to those who mistreat them because they believe it is better than starting over. But being surrounded by the wrong people is far lonelier than standing alone for a season. The wrong relationships will make you feel unseen, unheard, and unimportant. They will make you question yourself, doubt your worth, and lower your standards. But the right people will never make you feel like you are too much or not enough. They will embrace you as you are, not as someone they wish you would become. They will make an effort, not just when it is convenient for them, but because they genuinely care. God does not send people into your life to leave you confused or broken. He does not place people in your path to waste your time, take advantage of your kindness, or lead you into relationships that steal your peace. When someone constantly causes you pain, when they disappear when you need them the most, when they treat you as if you were replaceable, they are not meant for you. And yet, so many people hold on out of fear. Fear that they will not find better. Fear that letting go means losing something irreplaceable. Fear that if they just try a little harder, things will change. But love does not function through fear. Love functions through peace. The people God places in your life will not require you to fight for their attention or their time. They will not leave when things get difficult, nor will they use your presence only when it benefits them. The right people will encourage you, support you, and walk beside you no matter what. And if someone does not do those things, they are not meant to stay. You do not have to convince the right people to love you. You do not have to beg them to show up. You do not have to lose yourself in the process of trying to keep them. Releasing the wrong people makes room for the right ones. But as long as you keep holding on to those who do not value you, you block the blessings that God is trying to bring into your life. It is not your job to change someone's heart, to force them to care, or to make them see your worth. Your only job is to be who God created you to be and trust that the right people will see you, appreciate you, and stay. Not because you ask them to, but because they want to. The relationships meant for you will bring peace, not confusion. They will bring joy. They will make you feel cherished, not tolerated. Do not settle for anything less than that. Do not waste your time chasing people who were never meant to stay. Let go of those who leave so that you can embrace those who will truly walk with you. The right people will stay, not because you begged them to, but because they were meant to be there all along. So let this be your reminder. You are not meant to beg for love, chase after people who do not value you, or hold on to what God is trying to remove. Love is a choice, not a demand. The right people will choose you without hesitation. The right opportunities will come with peace, not confusion. And the right path will require faith, not fear. Trust in God's plan even when it does not make sense. Trust that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. Trust that rejection is often redirection, and that letting go is sometimes the greatest act of faith. Walk boldly into the future He has prepared for you, knowing that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right blessings will come, not because you forced them, but because they were always meant to be yours.